Back with Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts, the 1930 Britain light cruiser campaign. So we're in the 1931 now. We went through quite a long stretch in 1930 already without any battles. Popped some of our light cruisers onto sea control and did have a couple battles in the last episode. One of which was not very successful, and fell into some bad habits with the time compression, and then just blundered right into a torpedo spread as I was actually talking about not being that worried about torpedoes. It just was the icing on the cake. I thought that was hilarious, actually. All right, and so we started this campaign with a whole bunch of light cruisers and are building more, and we're actually up to, we started with 60, I think, and we're up to 71. It would be 72, but I lost one in the last episode. And we've got a bunch more building. Aha! This was the first batch of 12, and I'm moving them up to. I moved some of them to Rozeth, and there's some going up here to Scapaflow. So we're putting them all in the North Sea, where hopefully they are sinking transports. We won't actually know if they are until the end of the campaign, I guess. It does appear that 70 light cruisers with max range apparently is not enough to impose a blockade on a relatively modestly sized German fleet. Alright. We still have a number of light cruisers in sea control, as well as our two battleships. I'd like to see these. I'd like to see one of these Nelsons get into a fight. That would be cool. Unless it's a destroyer ambush. That would not be cool, because they're kind of slow. Let's see what happens in March. It's thinking. It's thinking. Okay, another convoy attack. Oh, it's over here in the Irish Sea. Are we defending or attacking? Okay, we're defending this time against a single German light cruiser. This doesn't look terribly scary. Oh, there you go. There's the Nelson. We've got our two battleships. Look pretty much like this. Pretty close. I didn't try to replicate exact, but it's laid out this way at any rate. Right. And it starts with me focused on one of the AI transport divisions. That's kind of weird. Okay, already spotted. Let's turn our torpedoes off for now. I'm just going to fire HE. Make sure 18 kilometers out. Just because of the distance and the spawn locations, it's possible we lose a transport or two right here at the beginning before even being able to shoot. Oh, it's got me in no. Cassandra and Arrogant. Ariadne does not have many torpedoes. If she wants to burn some of them or all of them on transports, I don't think I am against that. Although she did hit one. She's still got a couple shots left. Arrogant, not quite within range yet. There we go. Now we got a nice little rain of 6-inch HE coming down on Ariadne, who has fired again, by the way. Let's just make a preemptive turn over in this direction. Yep. She's run out of torpedo for her deck launchers. Still a couple of underwater tube shots. I think that's just a port and starboard tube. Oh, could be fore and aft too. Okay. Weather conditions are very good. Weather and sea conditions. Although she's smoking now. Done 1 point. We've done about 1,800 damage, of which roughly a third of that is from fires set by the HE. That seems to be a kind of a fairly consistent proportion. That you know, the component of the overall damage from fires, it's pretty typical. Something like 1/3 of it. I've seen that more than once. Now that I'm paying attention to that. I think HE's pretty. Let's not repeat our earlier mistakes. Let's see. I think if you just, it can only be one torpedo. She just has one tube in the side there. If we come on, but will arrogant blunder into it. Let's just put on torpedo avoidance for a moment. I don't think that'll hurt much. But we're seeing right here, the torpedo, as has been mentioned multiple times, the torpedo avoidance feature works pretty well in that, you know, the ships do avoid torpedoes. They do tend to kind of over-maneuver and mess up the formation integrity more than is necessary, including, you know, the tendency is always, it seems, to turn away. Whereas if Arrogant had just turned to the left toward the torpedo, like Cassandra did, that's all she really had to do. Still has the one shot. Although apparently it's being loaded in a tube somewhere. Because it's showing a reload. If there was only one torpedo left, ostensibly it would have been loaded in one of the other 3 tubes. Yet it's loading something. Is that just a display glitch? Or is she really not able to fire from any tube right now? I don't know. I don't think we need the torpedo avoidance anymore. Come on back over here, Arrogant. Alright then. Ariadne did get one transport before she was sunk. Let's press on, see if we can get another battle in for this episode. I do notice here that Germany has designed a new battlecruiser and a new destroyer. Haven't laid any down, but they do have new designs. April. Got a battle here. Battleship, please. No. Yes! So now we're going to see one of the Nelsons in action for the first time against their battlecruiser, which is armed with 13-inch guns. It's really just, but their battlecruiser is pretty fast. This may be a non-battle. Battlecruiser is a little over 30 knots, and our Nelson is 23. At least we're starting in range, though. As we'll go straight. We're starting at 20 kilometers. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I probably should just angle enough to get that third turret firing. But with the speed disparity, I need as much closure rate as I can get, really. Not even really trying to get closer, but just trying to keep the range where it is, really. What's she doing? Well, she's closing. So I guess I don't have to worry about that. Against 13-inch shells, I think Nelson's armor is probably alright. I'll move enough to unmask that battery at least. Getting some hits there. She hasn't turned away yet. Probably at this point I'm getting a little closer than I need to with these 16-inch guns. But the closer I get, you know, at some point this battlecruiser is probably going to try to disengage. The Leipzig. And the closer we are, the longer it will take for her to do so. I'm kind of banking that my armor is going to kind of handle the 13. Well, I mean, at this range, even the 13-inch is penetrating, obviously. So it's just kind of a shootout, close range right here. She does have torpedoes. That can be problematic. Matter of fact, I may have messed up. I'm just going to turn away now. And of course, firing to the aft is a weakness of this design for obvious reasons. And what just happened there? Oh my goodness. Her rudder's out. I can't maneuver her. This is about to get really bad. Well, I have mismanaged the hell out of this fight. Okay, okay. It's not necessarily a disaster yet. Not necessarily. I think we took at least 2, maybe 3 torpedoes there. The flooding is not that bad. I mean, the issue there was, hey, it's a battleship, doesn't maneuver that great to start with, but her rudder was taken out as well. I did have it on higher time compression. However, in that situation, I don't think that if I'd slowed it down, it would have made a big difference. Anyway, we are at 38%. Leap Zig is at 23. It's just a matter now of, well, and she's slowed down to 22 knots. She's got a good bit of propulsion damage. So do we. So 16 knots, 22 knots. It's a question now of whether she can get out of range or not. I don't think so. I think I'm going to switch to HE. Kind of keeping it angled this way so that, well, no, the third turret is out, so just keep chasing her. Minimize the rate of separation. Down to 20%. She's at 8.9 kilometers. We're going to be able to reach out and we're going to be able to range her beyond 20. 18.2 versus 12, so we've got about a 6 knot rate of opening. And she's got about 12 kilometers to go. Of course, kilometers and knots don't match up because they're a different unit of measurement. Knot is in nautical miles, which is 2,000 yards. It's actually 2,040 yards. And that is not arbitrary, by the way. Knots are based on degrees of latitude on the Earth's surface. 1 degree of latitude, not longitude, because longitude varies depending upon how far north and south you are. But latitude is constant from the equator to the poles. 1 degree of latitude divided into 60. A nautical mile is 1/60th of a degree of latitude. Which is why usage of the nautical mile as a unit of measurement at sea, and therefore the use of knots as a measurement of ship speed remains standard even in this day and age of pretty much the entire world, except America, on the metric system. Yeah, she's not opening too much, and I think our HE is going to do her in. So Nelson is going to prevail. I think this battle was closer than it needed to be because I am not doing a very good job in this campaign. of dealing with torpedoes. I'd gotten better in the last campaign and kind of regressing a little bit here. It's a cool ship, though. Pretty? No. Cool? Yeah. Would I want to build one for real in my Navy? No. That doesn't mean it's not cool, though. I would go out on a limb and guess that a majority of the people who might be watching this, who are interested in Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts as a game, I mean, let's face it, it's kind of a niche thing, right? It's not exactly a AAA title. So so it's not a random selection of folks. Okay, Leipzig is done. Heavy damage to Nelson. She'll be out for a number of months, and Germany's already ready for peace. No, I don't think so. I really want to see how many light cruisers it takes to impose a blockade, if that's all you have, and I would like to see one of the Nelsons eventually engage a German battleship. So I will continue this campaign at least until those two developments occur. If the Prime Minister agrees, of course. And the King. But what I was saying, though, is Nelson. Most people probably know all this and know it better than I do. I'm a dilettante, not an expert. But for those who don't, the reason why this funky design was built is following the Washington Naval Treaty. Britain, under the terms of the treaty, I guess, had some available battleship tonnage. And they wanted to build 2 battleships within that available tonnage. So basically their choice was they had enough tonnage that really building just one ship under it maybe would have been unfeasible, because it would have been like 70,000 tons. It probably didn't have the capacity or shipyard ability. This was in the early 20s to build such a vessel. But to build 2, they were constrained to something in the mid-30s. I think the light load displacement of these things was about 33,000 tons. And then, with oil and water and all that kind of stuff, it was a little more. However, it was defined as, which tonnage number to use, light or fully loaded, and what counted and what didn't. And my understanding is that kind of in the fine details of the treaty, the tonnage limits across the board, not just for battleships, did not include things like fuel and water. And there's a lot of water. It's not just not just fresh water for the crew and stuff, but also these are all steam ships, of course, in this time period. But feed water for the boilers, which is the primary usage of fresh water on a steam-powered ship. You burn through far more feed water for the boilers than you do for the what we would call ship services, which is potable water, water for the galley and scullery and stuff like that. In any case, they had limited tonnage, and they wanted this big battery of 16-inch guns. And the idea was to concentrate them all together, which then limited, it shortened the amount of hull that had to be enclosed within that extra protection of the citadel. So basically they shortened their citadel protection by putting all the guns together. That was the idea. Made for a little bit shorter ship, a shorter citadel, and of course the weight of all those turrets forward was counterbalanced by putting the propulsion plant and the superstructure way further aft than normal. So it's situated like this, not just for space on the main deck, which obviously that's a big part of it too, but also for the weight distribution. The obvious downside is can't fire aft. And so that, that kind of limits the, well, you just can't fire main armament aft. There's a big hole back here in your ability to bring 16-inch guns to bear, which is an issue if you're trying to disengage. And the other issue with trying to disengage is, again, trying to limit the design to within the treaty restricted tonnage 23 knots, which even in the early 20s, by that time was already fairly slow for a battleship. Of course, most of the World War I battleships, the ones that fought Jutland, most of them were down around 21 knots because they had been built before World War I. But the newest battleships, which actually operated with the battlecruisers because they were too fast, really, for the Grand Fleet, previous designs of Dreadnought battleships had already gotten up to 25, almost as fast as the battlecruisers. So the technology, the capability to build more speed into these things definitely was available, but wasn't used to limit the tonnage. And I built these a little bit bigger than the historical Nelsons, which were, I think at full load with fuel and water and everything, were a little over 37,000 tons. And I built these to 42 just because I didn't want to spend forever trying to tweak it all together. Anyway, that's kind of a little superficial knowledge level kind of reason behind why this funky design was actually used. And the ships did serve. I think they were completed in the mid-20s, and they served on through World War II, and both Nelson and Rodney did quite a bit of work in the Second World War, including the hunt for the Bismarck. I think Rodney was involved there to good effect. And of course they did a lot of shore bombardment at places like North Africa, Sicily, Italy, Normandy, a lot of that kind of stuff. Okay. I think that will do for this episode. And we will press on for, oh, I didn't look to see. How long is Nelson? 6 months. Not terrible. Actually, I expected it to be more like 8, so that's all right. And her repair cost is actually just about the same as we would be paying for her anyway on Sea Control. Now, obviously, she's not available as opposed to Rodney, who is, but at least we're not paying more than we would have otherwise. Well, we're paying like $60,000 more. In contrast to that, do we have... We do not. In comparison, these light cruisers, I had noticed earlier when I was off camera, their repair cost is much higher than their operating cost. You can see the in-being cost for one of these is just under $1 million, and the Sea Control cost for the light cruiser is about 1.4 million, but their repair cost is above 2. I think I saw 2.3 million. Bottom line, when one of the battleships goes into repair, it is costly, but it doesn't really change the monthly income because the expense is comparable. At least in sea control, it is more expensive than if we had these in being. But it does cost extra to repair a light cruiser. Okay, we will press on further into 1931 in the next episode. Thank you for watching.